and we're on all the channels we're supposed to be on.
Live from VentureX Studios, it's JP, Kathy, and the crew.
Well, happy Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right? Right? Am I good right on that? Is it Wednesday? I'm like, what day of the week is it? We are very excited to have you with us today. We have got lots to talk about. The Virginia election, the New Jersey election. Holy Toledo, Batman. Who knew that would be in play? We've got Dr. Good of the Ask Dr. Be Good show, who's going to be joining us momentarily. We've also got Senator Angela Paxton from Senate District 8 here in Texas, and she will be discussing the results and the turnout from yesterday's Texas constitutional amendment election. And then Congressman Taylor's got a few things to update us on in D.C., and one of the things that he's going to be talking about is a proposal from the administration that is just, there are no words. I don't even know what to do with this information, so you'll definitely want to turn in. But let's go ahead and turn it over to the one and only educational expert for the JP, Kathy, and the Crew show. How are you, Dr. Good?
Good. I'm good. We need the rain. I have to keep saying,
Yes.
Big house been inching down. We need the rain, so that's a real positive thing.
Yes, we do need it.
Yeah, it's not real positive. It's the latest on the state testing that went on last year. As you know, in
Yes.
State test 2021, we did test. Some states tested less than others, and it's been interesting looking at the data from those tests because it's many times we look at the test and we don't really understand the results enough to really use it the way that we should. And so let's talk about what happened last year. Because the state tests were as impacted in some ways as the school year and the school kids themselves. In a handful of states, some students took the test remotely while others did it in person. In
Right.
Massachusetts, allowed students in grades 3A to take remote tests if the school was in remote learning mode, and more than 15% of those students did. And some states made changes to their testing regimen. Some gave a shortened version of their test. In Colorado, they gave English language arts tests only in grades 3, 5, 7, and math and only in 4, 6, 8. In California, some districts gave the Smarter Balance test, and others could choose their own assessment. Are you starting to hear a problem here?
I was going to say, I think we have a pattern.
A pattern of randomness, right? So many, fewer students take the test than usual, though, and that factor poised to exert the most widespread influence on the validity and comparability of the state testing data. So according to the Center for Reinventing Public Education, which has been monitoring states' response to COVID-19, of the 30 states that released test results so far, only 14 reported test participation rates of 90% or more.
And that's, and I want to real quick, that kind of jumped out at me. In comparison to others, I mean, is this a glaring change in, say, like the last decade? That statistic is really what stood out to me.
There's lots impacting this, and this is what we need to understand. Like some states, New Mexico only had a participation rate of 10%. Oregon had 30%.
Whoa. See, that's unheard of. That's unreal, because I'm just, again, and as a teacher and as somebody who, like yourself, had, well, you've been around a lot longer in education than I was, but back in the day, in the 90s when I taught, like that would have been like this, the school building would have had to have literally imploded for us to have a 10% or a 30% participation rate in the testing. I mean, you understand, that's so hard to wrap your head around.
Because in the past, districts got dinged for
Yes.
lower than 5% of their students taking the test.
Yep.
This sudden it's do what you. I guess I shouldn't say do what you want. Do what you could. I guess.
I
What they were
guess,
looking.
yeah.
But now, here are the questions that we need to be thinking about when looking at our state data. Did any of our students take the test remotely? Because students who took the test remotely tended to score differently than kids who did it in school.
Interesting.
And did we take the same test as 2019? Remember, in some states, they shortened the test. And so you can't compare a test, even if it's the same test, to the 2019 results as the 2021 results if you change the test, right? If you made it with less items.
Right.
So how many students test? So the participation rate is so important when it comes to really being able to compare apples and apples.
That's so true. That's so true. Yeah.
So imagine an analysis that shows that students who skipped the test were disproportionately those who scored low in previous years. And so what that means, normally your students of color and students from low socioeconomic areas tended to score lower than, let's say, white students, Asian students. And those are the kids that tended to skip the test altogether last year. And so all of a sudden you have your lowest scoring kids not participating in the test last year, and a district might have a higher test score overall without understanding that was because their lowest scorers didn't take the test. You see
Right.
how all of this...
Well, and you've got to have you have to know, it's one of those things. You have to have your student who's struggling the most and your student who is succeeding the most both taking the test, and everybody in between, in order to get a fair assessment of what's going on that particular campus or in that classroom or in that district. You don't have the full data.
In high enough numbers. That's the thing.
Right.
So if you aren't paying how the population was changing, you're misinterpreting your scores. This is from Harvard University professor. And so what he's saying is we've got to avoid naive analysis. And that, I'm sure there's a lot of naive analysis going on comparing 2019 data to 2020.
Yes.
And, without taking into consideration all of these possible factors that would impact the data. And so there might be districts that are thinking, we didn't do as badly as we thought. Well, that's because your worst students didn't take the test. So,
right.
And you say, well, so what? Okay, well, that impacts our approach to intervention, right?
Right.
And so there's so much to consider, and are we doing that? And what does that mean from a parent standpoint? Because a lot of times, especially on your show, we have more parents than we have educators, right? And so the parents are thinking, okay, you're giving me a lot of information that educators need to know. What does this mean for me as a parent?
Right.
Well, it's important to understand that even if you chose to keep your child out of state testing last year, and some parents did, we still need to make sure that they get intervention, right?
Right.
Your child was a remote learner. He or she did not learn as much, even if they're a gifted child, as if they were in school. And so making sure that your child gets interventions at school and takes part in really all of this federally funded tutoring opportunity. And that's how we should be looking at tutoring. Sometimes we give tutoring a bad name because we think, my child needs remedial work. No.
Right. No, that's not it at all.
Opportunity to get extra instruction in a small group from the expert, right?
Yes.
From the content. And, here's how we need to think of it. A lot of parents pay money to outside tutoring companies for the same work that could be gotten for free in school.
Oh, my daughter had had some issues with math once she hit middle school, so we went back to an elementary school teacher of hers that would have small groups of kids over, and she was very fair on her rates that she charged, but we paid weekly for my daughter to have that additional help, and we're happy to do so.
Well, think about this. Remember all that ESSER money, the millions of dollars that every district has gotten,
Yes.
Title gotten, and that specifically to have small group instruction. And so instead of looking at it from I don't want my child to have and be part of interventions because that's remedial. No, what we need to think of that is it's an opportunity for your child to get deeper instruction in a small group, maybe covering things that he or she may have gotten somewhat well, but will get even better in a small group instruction. And it's free. And a lot of times when I say during the school day, I do include after-school tutoring because we should let our kids take part in after-school tutoring. Again, small groups, they've had to hire extra people. In Texas, the groups can be no larger than 3 unless the parents in the group of 5 or 7 sign off that they all agree that kids can be in a bigger group. But even a group of 5 is still a good size, nice small group. And,
Right.
Opportunity to maybe ask questions that he or she wouldn't ask in a big group. Maybe your child is shy. Maybe your child is that child that doesn't like to show that they don't know things in front of all their friends,
Right.
but would be more comfortable in a small group. So, these are questions that parents need to ask of their teacher, of their schools. How are you making sure that my child is getting good interventions, solid instruction in, during the school day and possibly after school? And remember, we have a teaching shortage too. I've spoken about that
Yes,
as well.
we do. Yes.
Part of that to-do list that I talked about 2 or 3 weeks ago on your show still stands, folks. You've got to stay the advocate for your child
Yes.
during the 3rd COVID year, especially now that we have this new, well, I shouldn't say new, this perfect storm of not necessarily being able to fill all of positions easily and having long-term subs in math, in ELA, and science. Those are tough content areas to have subs in, right? And so keeping an eye on the goings-on in your child's content classrooms is a very important part of your job right now.
It really is. Well, Dr. Good, what are you going to be talking about on Sunday's show? I mean, there's so much going on, and every time people think, and I hear a conversation, well, I feel like things, several folks have commented, well, we were able to have the homecoming dance like normal, and so I kind of feel like things are getting back to normal, and I'm like, okay, not that a homecoming dance isn't great and big fat fun and all that kind of stuff, but these test scores are what we need to be looking at. The different things coming in, the actual education part of education, we're not back to normal.
And that this information, this article has sort of led me to have a show that's going to talk about this plus what that means for parents in a more of a checklist, and then also what we need to do for teachers, keep supporting teachers, because article after article is showing us how hard it is for us to keep teachers in the classroom. We are losing teachers mid-year. That's sort of unheard of.
I know.
But they are something fierce. And I don't know if you keep an eye on that or let me do that work for you, but
Yeah.
we have got a scenario ahead of us, not only this year, but in future years, if we cannot find a way to make our teachers feel appreciated and supported.
Right.
And also starting to read that principal burnout is happening as well. And so that we need to put that on the radar of our parents so that, our PTAs, our PTOs, and just every parent make sure that we help our schools feel supported, or it's going to be harder to have good instruction for kids if our teachers don't feel supported and are leaving mid-year, and our principals are burning out. So we'll talk more about that. And
That's
what to do.
scary stuff. Well, lots to talk about, and the great thing is you've got your own show where you do that every Sunday from 8 to 8:30. We look forward to seeing you then and hearing more about education. I think the one thing you say over and over that we want to knock out of the park is parents must advocate for their kids in education, period, end of sentence. You're your child's best hope at the end of the day.
Thank you. And I'm going to sign off so I can sign back on and listen to the rest of your show.
There you go. All right. Thanks so much, Dr. Good. We appreciate you. All right, Dr. Rebecca Good of the Ask Dr. Be Good show. Of course, you can catch her on the JPK Broadcasting Network every Sunday from 8 to 8:30. So good stuff. Let's go ahead and wow, what a difference a day makes, I guess is what I can say right now. Remember, we've got Angela Paxton coming up in about 10 minutes, and then at 8:45 we've got Congressman Van Taylor coming on. Some craziness being proposed out of D.C., and then Angela is going to be updating us. Senator Paxton will be updating us on the results of the Texas constitutional amendment election. So let's pop up that picture because Virginia has gone red. We have got, and this is just amazing. Put his picture on the full screen, Brett, if you don't mind for a second, because this is real. I mean, this is big news. So I'm going to go ahead and read. This is from Virginia just a couple of hours ago out off of Fox News. Biden, Obama, Harris all strike out for McAuliffe, is that how you say his name, in Virginia. And this is a really, again, these midterm elections, and this is kind of the first of what we're seeing as a possible trend that could be coming out between this November and next November. Of course, next November, you've got congressional seats and Senate seats that are up, and this is one of those things where if you are a we the people kind of person anywhere in this country, that is where you can stop some of the bleeding. You can triage what's coming at us and what's killing us out of Washington, D.C. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this. So leading lights, the leading lights of the Democratic Party, including President Biden, former President Obama, Vice President Kamala Harris, and voting rights activist Stacy Abrams all stepped up to the bat in Virginia for the gubernatorial campaign, and the result was a giant whiff. So none of them excited the voters enough to take McAuliffe. Somebody help me out with McAuliffe. Not sure how to pronounce his name. Well, and I guess I don't need to know now because he did not win. Meanwhile, Republican Glenn Youngkin mostly campaigned on his own and ended up seizing the governor's mansion in Richmond. As a campaign stop for McAuliffe last month, Biden urged Virginians to cast their votes for him instead of, and insisted that the former Democratic National Committee chairman had a proven track record from his time as governor of the state from 2014 to 2018. And this is a Biden quote: "You don't have to wonder what kind of governor Terry will be. You know what a great governor he was. It wasn't just because of what he promised, it's because of what he delivered." Biden also echoed a false claim that Youngkin was seeking to ban certain books. Of course, this is that fear-mongering that the Democrats tend to use, and it's just so unnecessary, and I think people are really getting to the point where they know better than that. And Brett, you can go ahead and put a split screen, or actually let's keep his picture still somewhere, because this is until we finish talking about Virginia, because this is just a really to me, this isn't even a Republican Democrat moment. I know if you're a Republican, like all my friends, we're just, everybody is texting everybody, and oh my goodness, can you believe it? This is a bellwether victory. This is one of those things where we have absolutely, we the people in Virginia spoke and said, we don't like what's coming out of Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., the capital, the folks there, they don't know best for us. We know best for us. And also, I think, again, because this was a big fear-mongering campaign from the other side, all their top folks who came through, which Harris, she also made a trip to the Commonwealth and warned voters in the state that a loss for their candidate could tarnish Democrat chances in the 2022 congressional midterms and in the 2024 presidential election. And she is absolutely right. She goes on to say, what happens in Virginia will in large part determine what happens in 2022, 2024 and on, Harris said as she campaigned for the Democratic governor. You're going to bring this home, right? Yes, you are. Stacy Abrams, who lost the Georgia gubernatorial election back in 2018, also vouched for his candidacy, campaigning for him under a number of predominantly black churches, or in a number of predominantly black churches in Virginia. Voting is an act of faith, Abrams said at the time, urging the churchgoers in the state to go and, quote unquote, do the job. Biden predicted Tuesday that the Democrats were going to win in Virginia, noting it is all about who shows up. Boy, that I do believe that part. That's true, but it wasn't to be, and he failed to make it happen. This is a huge statement as far as we the people is concerned. You have got folks, and I was texting with JP and Dr. Good this morning, and I mentioned, one of the because I'm a creature of habit. I buy the same kind of stuff at the store every week. Once a month I buy certain cleaners. Once a month I buy certain things. Well, when I went in and was buying my the kitchen soap that I like and the kitchen spray that I use to clean my counters and my sink, I noticed that both of those items were up, and I want to say at this point almost 50 cents. They were over the $4 mark, which they never had been before. Gas, I think we talked about this on Monday. One of my girlfriends posted on her social media sites the gas tank that said $95, the gas pump, when she filled up her SUV. And it's just too much. It's just, we're getting things shoved down our throats. We're getting all of these, we're feeling like we have no control over our lives anymore. Ridiculous things, which Congressman Taylor's going to talk about, at least one of those today. Ridiculous things are being proposed. And we, the people, are like, when can I vote? We were in line for almost 45 minutes after work yesterday when my husband and I went to vote in the Texas constitutional election. And I heard a couple of people say, I just felt like I needed some kind of control. I'm assuming all of these amendments are going to pass, but I just felt like I needed somebody to know that I care about what's going on. This is very, very, very telling, and I would imagine the Democrats are very concerned, especially with the victories in Virginia. Now let's talk about New Jersey a little bit, and if there has been any updated news since I've been in studio, please somebody let us know about this. We'll be talking about this on Friday. Hopefully we'll have a definitive answer. But right now, it's a New Jersey Republicans make it a race against the favored Dem, and at this point, Fox News was saying, and this was as of a couple hours ago, the race in New Jersey, and we can take the soon-to-be Governor Youngkin. Hello, I'm super excited about that. Anybody want to go up for his swearing in? That would be fun. But anyways, this is another thing, and this I did not even expect this. And again, friends we were texting last night and texting early this morning. But the race for governor in New Jersey remained too close to call as early as Wednesday morning, as Governor Phil Murphy's challenger, Jack, and I apologize, I don't even, because my eye wasn't even on the prize in this neck of the woods, I might be mispronouncing his name, Jack Ciattarelli, I think. Anyway, it's Ciattarelli. Clings on to a slight lead. These two waged tense campaigns, and Murphy presented himself as a solid progressive. The Republican challenger tried to paint Murphy as an out of touch with the average voter and was critical of his leadership during the COVID-19 epidemic. The campaigns ended their election night parties without either claiming victory. Both struck optimistic tones with their supporters. We've sent a message to the entire nation. This is what I love about this state. Every single time it's gone too far off track, the people of this state have pushed and pulled and prodded it right back to where it needs to be. And this is the Republican challenger to the current incumbent Democrat governor. Wow. This is even if, and you've got to understand, the Republican challenger was, I think I at best heard maybe 10 points was what he would lose by. A lot of polls and folks out there predicting these elections had him tracking at possibly a 15-point loss. So the fact that we are talking, I want to say 49. Oh, let's see. I think it's 49. And if you'll let me know when Senator Paxton comes on, 'cause we'll hop over to her. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Dead tie, 49.6 each. I think Ann said that. Oh, she's on. Okay. Ann said that 88%. Yeah, 88% of the votes are in. They're absolutely tied currently. So this is a race that even if the Democrat still pulls out a victory, because I'm hearing some of the counties that are still out are blue counties, this should send such a message to D.C. that, hey, even in New Jersey, we don't like what you're doing. So let's talk about Texas. We like what Texas is doing, right, Senator Paxton?
Texas is the best.
Yes, yay. Well, good morning to you, Senator Paxton. We're so glad to have you on for a special wrap-up after yesterday's Texas constitutional amendment election. Interestingly enough, and I don't know if you had a chance to hear this before you got on, I mentioned that my husband and I went to vote yesterday after work and ended up having to wait like 45 minutes in line at Plano Carpenter Rec Center, and overheard some people saying, because people are like, wow, this is a big turnout here at the end. I'm surprised so many people are here. I can't believe I've even got a line to wait in. People were saying things like, I overheard, because of course I'm people watching and listening the whole time, saying things like, I just felt, I know these were probably all going to pass. It's probably not a big deal if I vote or not, but... And some people were like, I don't even know what amendments are on the ballot. But they said, I'm just so upset with everything that I felt like somehow I had to let somebody know that I'm here and I want to be listened to. So I think it's very telling that, you can have that kind of push here at the end. I think it's because people feel frustrated. Now in Texas, do you know what kind of percentage turnout we had, and did everything pass? Did number 3 pass? I know that was a big one that we were all looking at.
Yes. So I've got actually, if anybody's interested in digging down into the details, it is the Secretary of State.
Okay.
Let's see. It's a results.texas. I'm actually just reading from the search bar.
Okay, gotcha.
Results.texas-election.com.
Okay.
And you can kind of dig down into the percentages and look at pie charts and graphs and all kinds of things. But right now they have, it says 100% of the counties have now reported, 99% of polling locations have reported. The next update on this website is in about 4 minutes. But they're, the results are not official until they actually canvass the results.
Right.
There's an official process that they'll go through. John Scott is the new Secretary of State. And, I think one of the things that you'll probably see is just a focus with him on trying to make sure that people feel confident about the elections. I noticed in the press releases for John Scott that he met with the 4 counties that will be doing the election audits
Right.
The other day. And so I think he's just trying to be proactive in helping make sure that we can have confidence in our election results. But for the 8 propositional, the propositions that we're waiting to see if they would actually become constitutional amendments, all of them passed. I thought I'd kind of walk through them real quick. If you're interested.
Oh, that would
in
be, yes, please do. Please do.
And I'll give you the percentages that they passed by, because
Okay.
it's kind of interesting.
Okay.
So all of them did pass. The first one was one that basically just gave rodeo charitable organizations the ability to do like lotteries and things like that at rodeo events.
Right.
That doesn't sound like something that would need a constitutional amendment, but
it does.
and you, yeah, everybody's probably been though to like a professional sports team where they go around and they have some kind of a raffle or something like that. And because gambling is illegal in Texas, people have to get permission to do this. So we generally send that on to the people of Texas to decide. So anyway, that passed by 83.8%.
Okay.
The second was the constitutional amendment authorizing a county to finance development or redevelopment of transportation or infrastructure in unproductive, underdeveloped, or blighted areas in the county. This is something that cities can do, but counties don't have the permission to do this. It did pass 10 years ago. This did not pass. There's kind of a toll road connection to this a little bit,
Right.
but it passed. This was the lowest threshold that anything passed by, and it was 63.3.
Okay. But it's still handily passed this time around.
Handily.
Yep.
Now, this is interesting to me. Actually, I just have looked at my data wrong. This is the one that actually passed with the lowest, with 62.4, was that churches cannot be closed during by state or political subdivisions.
See, and I expected that to be at least in 75% or over victory. At the end of the day, a victory is a victory is a victory. And I know that you and I were watching that one in particular. I watched that one more closely than any of the other ones, and spoke about that to other people. Like when people said, well, what are all the amendments? If I had like 30 seconds to tell them, I said, hey, these are what I'm voting in favor of. This is what I'm concerned about. But hey, this one has to pass. I thought that would be more like a 75% victory.
I did too.
Yeah.
But going back to an election, I mean, that's still a fantastic majority. If I won my election with 62%, I'd be very, very happy.
Oh yes.
So,
yes.
but I am surprised of the in the package that I think was no, I'm wrong. Here, I didn't look at the whole list very well, did I? So that
Go
was
right ahead.
62%. Okay, so here we go. Now, the next two both had to do with eligibility requirements and ethics, judicial conduct kinds of questions.
Right.
So the first one was basically that in order for someone to run, be a candidate for judge, that they actually have to have practiced law in Texas. So previously, you have to be obviously, a member of the bar in Texas, licensed to practice in Texas, but you didn't necessarily have to have had experience practicing in Texas. So that requires, that you've practiced in Texas courts for some period of time. Right. 58% passed with that. The next one is that the same ethics and judicial conduct rules apply to candidates and to elected judges during the campaign. So I guess there have been some situations where candidates have done things that a judge cannot do as a sitting judge, but as a candidate, they did them. And so it's to level the playing field between candidates and the actual office holders.
Gotcha.
So that was number 4.
Okay.
That passed by 58%, 59%. The next one is essential caregiver. This actually got the highest pass rate. That individuals have the right to of certain facilities like nursing homes to designate an essential caregiver that can visit them. 87.8%.
Okay. Yeah. And that made sense. That made complete sense.
Yes. And then the last two both passed very, very with very, very high percentages.
Okay.
And they both basically had to do with giving property tax exemptions to members, first responders who died in the line of duty, not necessarily in action, but in the line of duty, and also extending those kinds of exemptions to spouses.
Yes.
So those both passed with 87%.
Right.
So
Right.
there you go.
And usually it's interesting, and unless there's some kind of really big effort, especially statewide, where everybody, and you've heard about it, and there's yard signs and bumper stickers for it, and you're getting mailers and calls and text messages. Usually amendments, bonds, things of that nature pass. People are typically okay because at this point the conversation has gone so far that it makes sense. And I am, there are several of those that I'm really happy to hear about. The first responders, absolutely the right thing to do. Caretakers, right thing to do. And churches, and again, like I said, a victory is a victory. Because I had some people,
and that's 2/3, right? 2/3 of people.
Yes.
2 out of 3 people voted yes on that.
Exactly. Because I guess my thing is, if you don't feel comfortable because of maybe a health issue, or maybe you have an elderly, or a person who elderly or compromised, a person with compromised health system, health issues or whatever at home, then you may choose to still do church, on the TV or online or whatever the case may be. So I thought that would pass a little bit higher. I am thrilled that it did pass because we're protected now. I mean, talk about how this does protect those of us who want to go into the church. We're protected. I mean, we're taken care of.
Yes, and basically, this is saying is let churches make their own decisions about how to navigate these things. Let them care for people in a way that makes sense for their congregation. Don't tell them how to do it.
Exactly.
That's really all this is. Let them make their own decisions based on their congregation. Let them care for their congregants in the way that they think makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And so, the other thing about turnout, we had, it looks like about 1.45 million
Okay.
Texans voted. Out of, we have about 29 million Texans, so 1.45 million.
Yes, and how many? And so, do we know what the percentage is yet? I know we still have a few things that are coming in. Do we know what the exact percentage is?
Well, I was just going to say, what is 1, 4, 5?
Oh, I'm not good at math, Senator.
Divided by 29.05%.
Okay, so now I'm wondering now, is that the eligible? Are those registered voters?
5%.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and that's not based on that. That's just based on our population.
Population, gotcha.
That would
okay.
That would be 5% of Texans.
So really, there was no big spike. We didn't have some double-digit turnout or anything like that. It was low, like anticipated, and like it usually is. In which, again, and you mentioned this the other day. That's why I was so happy that you were going to be able to be on with us today to give a wrap up of what passed. This is always a low voter turnout. So if, again, your voice is loud and clear in this kind of an election.
You're speaking for, when you talk about, 5%, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're speaking for 95% of the other folks, right?
Right.
And so and I mean, I think that you probably saw this as well. I mean, there were lots of folks that didn't even realize there was an election, and it's because there weren't candidates, right? There weren't individuals that were seeking election in those places other than, a couple places. So, and the other thing, like I know at our church on Sunday, because the heartbeat bill was going to be heard on Monday in DC, which I actually attended. Ken and I both were there, and I participated in the press conference right after the heartbeat bill arguments on Monday.
And thank you for that.
That was the big focus. It was an honor to be there and be part of it. But, I think like at our church, they were very focused on that happening on Monday. And I don't know that they even mentioned the election.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty engaged church. But I think it kind of was overshadowed in some ways by that.
I think you're right. That's really what people are focusing on right now. That, and who's going to be on next November's ballot. So,
Yeah.
yeah, well, we really appreciate your time. And then if there ends up being another special session, which, hey, you never know, we'd love to have you back on. Maybe if we can have you back on in a couple of weeks to wrap up special session and talk about some of the things, especially education is such an important, crucial topic. If you could maybe talk about some of the things you're going to be working on as a member of the Education Committee for the next session, because you're doing that work now, correct?
Well, and that's a great point to bring up too, Kathy, because we always get communication from constituents about we need to have a law to do this and this and this, and when we are in session, we have the ability to make laws.
Right.
A special session, regular session. Even though in a special session, if it's not something specific to the call, it's probably not going to have legs.
Right.
But we do have the ability to move legislation if we are in session, but we are not in session right now.
Right.
And so, whereas Congress is, and so I think a lot of times people aren't familiar with kind of, the lanes that different folks are in, but we actually, for people that call and say, please support this or whatever. And I can say, I do support that, but we don't have the ability to actually move legislation right now. We're in what's called the interim. And because we're coming into campaign season, there's going to be a lot of shifts coming the March 1st primary, and then next year in November, right? So I think you're going to see a lot of shift in the narrative from a lot of our folks about the issues that do matter, what their position has been on things. And they're going to be kind of more in, campaign mode a little bit coming up. But the other thing that we are really doing as office holders right now is getting ready for the next regular session, which just as you said, will be, in 23.
Yep.
So in January of 23. So this is when we do the work for that. And so, I think some of the most meaningful legislation that I've carried and passed has been things that have come from constituents that it's something that they encountered and they're like, something is wrong with the process here. And, there was we passed a bill called Ellie's Law that because of family's tragedy, and I think we talked about this on your show back when we passed it, but it was a tragedy that had happened in a family with their little girl an infant that died in daycare because of some regulations. And we were able to go in and make sure that when parents go in and research home daycare or any daycare, that they can see if there have been prior violations so that they can make the decision that they want to make for their child. And so hopefully, because of the courage and perseverance of this family, other families won't have to go through what they went through. So there are all kinds of things that are about all kinds of different issues that they matter to my constituents. And those are some of the biggest things that I do, in my opinion, some of the most important things that we do. So
couldn't agree
just so
more.
Everybody knows.
Yeah. And so reach out to Senator Paxton, and we really appreciate you coming on to do this wrap up on the Texas constitutional amendment election. And Senator Paxton, you're always open for meetings, for phone calls, for emails. Work is being done right now for January of 2023. So get in touch with Senator Paxton. Let her know if you like something, if you don't like something, and she'll work on it with you.
Absolutely. And you can follow me on my social media at Angela Paxton TX. My website is www.angelapaxton.com. Would love to have you go there and click I'm with Angela and get involved in some of our campaign activities too if you're interested in doing
I'm
that.
with you. I'm with you. I'm with you, Angela. I'm with you, Senator Paxton. We'll have a blessed rest.
You're one of my ladies.
I am, and I'm honored to be.
Difference.
Well, thank you so much, Senator. I appreciate all the good work you do. God bless you, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. That's Senator Angela Paxton from SD8, doing a great job in Austin for us, and she's available and ready to talk to you if you have something you want to make sure is stopped or starts or changes for next legislative session. Of course, we only meet 6 months every other year unless there's a special session. So get in touch with her and we'll put her information in on our feed. Now, talking about somebody else who's accessible, and I just love this. I mean, we're so blessed that we've got, and personally myself, I'm, represented by Senator Paxton. I'm also represented by Congressman Van Taylor, who we have coming on now. Just very, very fortunate, very blessed. It should be the norm that elected officials are this accessible. Unfortunately, it's not. Now, we, the people, might be doing something to change that because I tell you what, Virginia spoke very loud and very clear, and New Jersey, no matter which, if we were in the win or the loss column as the Republican governor, this has been a wake up call, I believe. So, Congressman Van Taylor, how are you?
Good morning, and good morning.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's great to see you again. And I want to get into, I've got a question for you because I've been waiting to have you back on the show to talk about this particular thing. But first of all, thank you so much for allowing me to MC your commemoration for the Veterans event when you gave out the awards on Saturday. Moving to say that these are individuals and patriots who have served our country and our community. I feel like I'm not even doing them justice. Thank you for continuing to recognize service for people who have served in uniform and then out of uniform. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, well, Kathy, thank you for participating and being the master of ceremonies. You did a fabulous job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And it is always a treat to recognize. We recognize 15 individuals who have served our country in uniform and then come back and served our community. And it was really inspiring. And it went from people who did, a few years in the military in peacetime and then have a lifetime of service in our community to people that went all the way and got 3 stars.
Yes.
Literally a lifetime of service in the military and then come back and they're participating again in our community. And I will say that one thing that was very inspiring to me is the Congressional Youth Advisory Council was there. And so we had 40 some odd high school students. And so many of them said, that really gives me an idea of where I may want to live my life or how I want to live my life, because you were seeing people who'd really lived, not all of the awardees, but most of the awardees, they're older. And so they're 50s, 60s, 70s. And so, and I think even perhaps older than that.
Right. Yes.
And so it gave you a perspective on service, and it was very inspiring to see this level of service. And it was and a real very humbling for me to have the tremendous privilege of being able to bestow the Congressional Commendation Award on them and say thank you for your service and thank you for everything you've done for our community. And I think it really is it was a great moment to really reflect on these people's lives of service in uniform and out of uniform. Right. And I will say that it was our most popular ever ceremony. We were almost at capacity. The theater only seated 350 people, and there were a few seats left, but there were many people standing.
Just a handful. Yeah, my husband, he ended up, because he didn't go until later, and he was up in the upper balcony, and he said, Kathy said, there were only a handful of seats left at that point, but then he did notice a few folks standing so they could take pictures. I was blown away, but I think that, again, is a testament to you saying, hey, these people matter. They have made a difference, and we must recognize them. And gosh, I agree with everything you said. It was just a phenomenal event. And just, again, thank you for recognizing people like that. They deserve recognition, and if it's going to inspire the next generation coming up, all the better. Okay, so I've got to go from really happy and lovely and wonderful patriotic talk. I want to know, Congressman, how do I get in on the $450,000 check?
Wow, that is just it is just one of the worst ideas, and it's just another. I mean, the only way to put it is it's an insult to the American taxpayer.
It
is to tell a hardworking American who is trying to figure out, with inflation and empty grocery shelves and higher gas prices, how they're going to fuel their tank, what they're not going to be able to afford at the grocery store, that their tax dollars are going to go to pay illegal aliens a jackpot. I mean, $450,000 per child.
Right.
So these are literally. So you have families that are looking at getting $1 million.
Right.
And I mean, when the word gets out, hey, go to America illegally, Joe Biden will give you $1 million. I mean, you don't think that, if you think it's bad now, and this is one of these things where, like, every night you go to bed, you're like, it can't get any worse. And Joe Biden figures out how to make it even worse. And so this idea, which I'm going to point out, the White House has not denied this. You know, the administration has said, look, this isn't true. We're not going to do it. They've said nothing. They've neither denied it nor they have acknowledged it. And so
right.
you have to fear the worst, that this is something that they are seriously considering. It's a terrible idea. I and other members of Congress immediately, went into action, sent a letter to the administration. Look, you cannot do this. And we're talking about it. And I just encourage, everybody out there, reach out to your congressman, reach out to your senators, reach out to the White House, send them an email and tell them no, full stop. Like, this is crazy. This crazy town policy, this has just got to stop. And this is another example of America last and illegal aliens first.
And it's not right, Congressman. And I know this is one of those crazy things. Each week when you come on, we think, okay, this is as bad as it's going to get. Okay, Afghanistan, this is the worst. You did a whole report on that. For several weeks, you reported on Afghanistan and what really went on there. And so we just keep thinking, and then we talk about $95 to fill up your SUV with just regular unleaded gas. That's not okay. That takes food off the table for your kids. That may mean they don't get to play soccer or baseball or go to dance class or whatever the case may be. Every week when you come on, the Biden administration ups the crazy, and no offense to crazy. What is happening?
It is, again, it is a consistent policy from the Biden administration of America last.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the duplicity. This is an administration that said, we're not going to do a vaccine mandate. We don't have the power to do that. And this came from Anthony Fauci. It came from the head of HHS. It came from the president of the United States himself. I don't have the power to do this. President Biden, I'm not going to do this. No vaccine mandate. Not going to come from me. And then he does it.
Yeah.
This is a president who said, I'm not leaving anybody behind in Afghanistan. We're going to stay till we get every American home. So President Biden, that was his promise to our country, to uphold one of our long-held, a sacred honor that every American fighting man and woman has, that we're not leaving anybody behind. And I'll just make this kind of personal point, as a reconnaissance Marine, where I was, conducting missions and sending Marines behind, forward of friendly lines, well into India, well into bad guy country. It was just a deeply firm belief in me. I'm not going to leave anybody behind. I'm going to get every single man who's in my charge home. That is my responsibility as a reconnaissance Marine, as an officer. I'm going to do this. And for Biden to say it and promise it and then violate that promise. And, I'll just say this, my office, we are currently trying to get about 450 people out of Afghanistan. And that's been true since August 31st, when America withdrew from Afghanistan. And we said, we got 450 people there. How are we going to get, these are just the people that my district office is trying to get home. We've been able to get one person back, one, in 60 days. And this administration, it is atrocious. Again, but this is just, they say one thing and then they break their word. They just, the president, the border is secure. We've heard this proclamation from the Biden administration repeatedly. It's not secure. It's the most unsecure border we've had probably in the history of our country.
I think you're right. I think you're right. And Congressman, let's go back 25 years. You've been somebody who's been protecting and standing up for a secure border. Let's talk to the crew about that, because I think that's important. if you're saying it's the worst it's ever been, you've been there and done that for over 2 decades.
Sure. No, yeah. My first time on the U.S. Mexican border was as a Marine second lieutenant, and that was 25 years ago. And I've been back to the border, as a state legislator and then now as a congressman, and it's the worst it's ever been. My understanding is that we've had 7 months in a row of over 170,000 border apprehensions. That has never happened in the history of our country. That is the most border apprehensions that ever happened in a 7-month streak. And it's going to accelerate because of this crazy plan that President Biden has to hand out hundreds of thousands of dollars to people who are here illegally. And let me just make why this is an insult. It's an insult to the taxpayer, but to the American men and women who put on the uniform, who risk their lives, who go downrange, and who make the ultimate sacrifice, who die in defense of our country. The federal government gives their family $100,000. So we're going to give more money to family, to people who come to our country illegally, break our laws. We're going to give them $450,000 a piece. And then we do to our men and women in uniform who fight for our country and make the ultimate sacrifice. Again, it's illegal aliens first, America last. Just me. I remember the days of America first. I remember the days of President Trump when he stood up for these things, and he was right then. And I know Americans long for the day to come back. It wasn't too long ago. We had a president who said America first, and we're tired of this America last stuff.
Well, and I think the voters, I know in Virginia, they spoke loud and clear last night. A Republican governor, we had Republican wins up and down the ticket. And the fact that we're talking about a race for governor in New Jersey that I think at best I had heard was going to be, a 10-point difference. Most folks were saying it's probably going to be somewhere between 10 and 15 points. And at this point, even if it is a loss at the end of the day for the Republicans, it's a win for we the people. That race, Congressman, is a dead heat.
Absolutely. No, and look, I'm going to be honest. The Democrats didn't see this coming.
They couldn't have.
You could see how unhappy the American people are. They're unhappy. Parents are shocked and appalled that the Attorney General of the United States would call them domestic terrorists for standing up at a school board meeting and saying, "Hey, I don't want my children to have to read pornographic books. Hey, I don't want my child to be told that they're a racist because of the color of their skin. I don't want my child to be told that they are an oppressed victim because of the color of their skin." The idea that those people are terrorists at the same time that the Biden administration, literally at the same time, is handing an entire country over to terrorists. Literally an entire country. Let's give the whole country to terrorists. Let's give them $85 billion of equipment. Let's leave Americans behind. But you know what? The real terrorists are these parents.
Are the parents who are speaking, exercising their right to freedom of speech. And I just sit here and think, it's your friends and my friends who are at these school board meetings, and they're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. They are just very concerned about the books being put in front of their kids. And I know back, and I'm a little bit older than you, but I remember my parents, my mom would get extra copies of the school books for the year, and she would read through those. And I know she would go, if she ever had concerns, she would go and talk to the principal or somebody at the administration building. And the neighbors, my mom's friends would be like, "Well, thank you so much for speaking out on that." And now what my mom would be considered a domestic terrorist, but the drug cartel can have tons of drugs coming in that they're basically giving out, so our kids will get addicted. And then all of a sudden you've got somebody dying because, fentanyl is laced in their marijuana cigarette. It's crazy. It's crazy, Van.
Yeah, and again, it's an insult to every parent that's ever stood up at a school board meeting that they would be considered domestic terrorists. And I'll just say that, as long as I have been in public life, I have said, and I will continue to say, that what makes schools great in certainly, here in North Texas is parental participation.
Amen.
The more that a parent is
Amen.
involved with their child's education, the more that they care about, they make sure they're getting their kids to kayak, they're getting their
Right.
kids
Yeah.
to, after school enrichment programs, that they're reading with their children, that they're participating with their homework, that they're talking to their teacher or their principal or their school board. The more participation that you have, the better that school is going to be, the better that education is going to be for that
Amen.
child. And we know that because we see that right here in North Texas, where parents are involved, where they are engaged, and where they do participate. And I mean, to turn around and sort of say, that's domestic terrorism. And let me just point out, that in this, several months ago, several members of Congress, including myself, asked the president to declare the drug cartels terrorist organizations.
Yes.
And what's amazing is the president ignores that ask, blows it off, like whatever. They can run drugs in here. They can control, the southern border. They can do human smuggling. I'll help them, says the President Biden. And then at the same time, but these parents that are coming to school meetings, they're domestic terrorists. We need to investigate them. It's really shocking. And look, this isn't like some fringe person in the Democrat Party. This is the Attorney General of the United States of America, right? This is not some, flippant, tweet or something by some, precinct chairman in, somewhere in Middle America. I mean, this is actually the Attorney General of the United States that's saying these things, and it just boggles the mind, and it's an insult.
It is. And Congressman, and I know we're getting ready to wrap up here, but so I want you to let people know how they can get in touch with you. But it's one of those things that does the Biden administration think we are that clueless? Information is too easy to access. If your congressman's ignoring you, you can go to a different congressman like yourself, and you can get the real scoop on what's going on. So with a government that you can, even if somebody's not forthright in giving you the information, you can still dig it up and do research and find the information. Does this administration just think that we, the people, are stupid?
Well, they certainly have got to have gotten a clue yesterday.
Yeah.
What happened in Virginia, what's happened in New Jersey. Look, there was a state rep seat in San Antonio that Biden won by 14 points that flipped to be a Republican seat yesterday.
You got it. Yes.
A real shock, I think, across the board. And again, that is a Hispanic seat, and Hispanics at least in Texas are plenty mad at how the border has been turned into a disaster, and the drugs are flowing across, and there's human trafficking, and there's sex trafficking. This is unacceptable, and President Biden has a constitutional duty to protect and defend the integrity of our borders, and he has completely given up on that. But what's worse than that, he's basically lied about it. He said, "Oh, we have a secure border." We don't have a secure border. It's the least secure it's ever been in the history of our country. He's directly responsible. His policy choices, his decision to, in the Remain in Mexico policy that was instituted by President Trump, his decision to stop deporting people, that President Trump was very successful with, his decision to stop asking the Mexicans to defend our southern border, to help us with that. President Biden has made the policy choices that have created this insecure border, and President Trump crafted those policies that President Biden got rid of. And so President Biden owns this. This is his problem. He created it, and he's going to make it worse. I mean, this $450,000 proposal unquestionably will make our border even less secure. It's hard to believe it can get worse.
Right. But here we go.
It looks like he's trying.
You're right. And again, unfortunately, each week that you come back, there's something crazier that's being proposed, or something that's more, at the end of the day, is more dangerous and harmful to we the people and to the American people. We appreciate you fighting the good fight. Keep fighting the good fight and fighting on the side of common sense and of we the people. I mean, truly, I cannot thank you enough for representing us and just being so accessible and trying to get the word out about what this administration is trying to do to us. How do people get in touch with you? Because you do have 100% meeting policy.
I still have 100% meeting policy. I had meetings with people yesterday, today, tomorrow. I'm stuck in Washington voting this week. We'll hopefully get back to Texas here in a few days, and we'll continue my 100% meeting policy. You can go to just Google me, Van Taylor Congressman. You'll find our website. I think we'll probably put it in the Facebook chat here.
I was going to say, I think somebody's commenting right now.
Okay. All right. Well, we're obviously would love to sit down and talk with anybody. Feel free to pop us an email, make a call into my office, a letter, any means you want to. Love to get your opinion. Love to hear what you think is important. And we'll continue to fight for you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Go back and push back on the frontiers of darkness up there in D.C., Van Taylor. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Right. Thank you, Kathy. Great to be with you.
All right. God bless you. All right. He's doing a great job representing us. And, just unfortunately, there is something every week that we discuss things coming out of D.C. with the congressman. There's a crazier idea. There's something more harmful proposed. There's something that has or has not happened that is hurting we the people, either our pocketbook, our physical safety, our mental health and our emotional well-being. All of those things are being put at risk right now. And the current administration just either they're that out of touch or they just don't care. So it's scary stuff. So voting is important and it does matter. Made a big difference in Virginia. So thank you to the people who've made a difference there. Real quick before we sign off, and I know we're running long, but we've got to mention this. So, and I did, Coach Quigley, I'm wearing your hat. I even wore it yesterday when I voted. I was hoping it would bring us good luck. Unfortunately, it did not. The Atlanta Braves have won their first World Series since 1995 after defeating the Houston Astros 7-0 in Game 6 last night at Minute Maid Park. The Braves took the series 4 games to 2 behind, strong pitching and 3 big home runs. And although Atlanta couldn't close out the Astros at home in Game 5, thousands of fans flocked to the Braves Stadium, Truist Park, on Tuesday to watch the game on a nippy but starry night. So, you know what? Hats off to the Houston Astros. Great season, just some amazingly talented ball players. Thanks for some great memories this baseball season to the Houston Astros. And again, then if the Rangers aren't in it next year, it's all about the Rangers until the Rangers are out, and then it's all about the Astros. And again, Coach Quigley, I love my hat, and thank you so much. I'm wearing it proudly today. Just in honor of a great season for the Houston Astros. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day, and we will see you on Friday. We've got the Lawyer Show on Thursday. What else do we have? Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, This Pink Cloud will be coming up on Friday. Then we will have, and that's a show all about recovery. Great show if you know someone in need or if you're in need. Great information. And then Saturday morning, Kilroy's Conversation. Of course, a week from tomorrow, my goodness, a week from Thursday, we will have a Veterans Day telethon from 9 to 3 up here at Venture X. If you have a veteran-owned business or if you're a veteran who would like to have a few minutes on the show, shout at us. Andrew White and Chuck Wright from Kilroy's Conversation will be joining us, as well as JP. He'll be piping in throughout the day from out of town next Thursday, I believe. Anyways, y'all have a great day. Have a blessed one, and we will see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.